Welcome to SethCraft. I'm building a 20 by 30 workshop, as you can see behind me here. I've just finished the foundation and floor, so now it's time to begin the walls. Now, because I'm working alone, I'm going to build 10-foot sections at a time and raise those up and then move down to the next section. So this very first wall is going to be a basic 10-foot wall with no frills, no windows, no doors, nothing, just 10 foot, raise it up into place. So let's go ahead and jump into this build. The first step is to get two 10-foot 2x4s, and I want to look down these and see where the crown is. The crown's going to go up. So it looks like that way right there is going to go up. Alright, there we go. Those two are going to go up. So the next thing I need to do is measure these to make sure they are 10 foot. Oftentimes you'll have a little extra board and I need to take that off of here. So let's go ahead and measure this out and see what we have here. So for this first board, it is actually spot on 10 foot. So I don't have to trim that one down. Let's move over to this one. Same deal, 10 foot on the dot. Very good. I've lined up the edges of my board so they are flush. Now I'm going to be doing 16-inch on center for my studs here in the wall. So I'm going to take my tape measure, and first of all, I'm going to make a mark at 1.5 inches. Now that's going to be where the corner is. So using a speed square, I'm just going to line that up. Now the board that I put here will actually fit right here just perfectly. So I don't even have to do that line, but I just like to just for the fun of it. Now, so I'm going to take my tape measure and I'm going to go along every 16-inch. Now my studs are going to be at 16-inch on center, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to make my mark on the center line. I'm going to move 3/4 of an inch out, so at the 15 1/4 here, make my mark, and then move over to 16 3/4 and make my mark again. That right there is where my stud is going to go. So right there and there, and that will give you 16-inch on center, but gives you the outside lines for guides. All right, basically I'm going to slide down to 32-inch, and this will be the next 16-inch on center. Find 3/4 of an inch, so 31 1/4, and then move over to 32 3/4. All right, and that right there is the next stud. I'm going to move down the line and finish those out. Now on a 10-foot span here, there's going to be a much smaller space in here for the last board, and basically that 2x4 is just going to go right in there. And our next wall will butt up here, so it's nice to have that end board right there. I have my boards laid out. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But there's also going to be one more 2x4 that goes right in here, and that's going to be to design a California corner. Basically, it will allow a extra little piece of 2x4 to stick out, so that sheetrock can be installed later. So we need 10 studs all together in this wall. Now, as I measured out a little while ago, these boards are 10 foot, and I want a 10-foot tall wall. But if you consider the bottom plate, the top plate, and the double top plate, then I need to remove 4.5 inches off of these studs in order to make that wall 10 foot. So I'm going to take my 10-foot 2x4s and trim off 4.5 inches from each of these so that the wall will end up being 10 foot tall. To trim these boards down, I'm going to take my tape measure from the long end, and I want to remove 4.5 inches, which means I need this at 115.5. At the 115.5 mark, I can use my speed square as a guide for my circular saw so that I don't have any wavering as I'm cutting. There we go. I'm going to do 10 of those total. Now while I have these boards up here on top of my sawhorses, let's go ahead and build the California corner. So I'm going to use 3 2x4s. I'm only going to need 2 of them in the actual corner, but having the third one will help support while we're building. All right, so I'm going to turn up 2 of these so that they are long ways. And then I'm going to take the third one and place it on top. So as you can see, the 2 boards underneath are simply just going to support this top one. I need to make sure I have it lined up perfectly here on the edge to be flush and both directions there. Now I'm going to put a long screw here first to get this in position. Now if you have a nail gun, this is going to go a lot easier, but I don't. So what I'm going to do is make sure that my board is flush all along this entire length right here. That's fairly important. And I'm just going to start nailing this together. Now you can see I'm going to start from one end and move down, and I'll show you why I do that. Notice how the board needs to be scooted in here, but it wants to naturally fall out of alignment. If I were to put a screw in here and go to the middle, then there would be a bow inwards that I'd have to deal with. So I'm going to move from one side and just push this in as I go, and that will level that out for me. Okay, that California corner is done. Now one nice thing about these corners is that you can use them in any direction because you can flip them around and use them however you need to. So you can go ahead and build as many of these as you need right on your surface and then put them in place whenever you need to use them. So anyway, let's go ahead and move this over here to our corner. And now I can take the rest of my 10-foot 2x4s and lay them out to match up the 16-inch on center that we did. And I'm going to take the top plate away here and put it at the top of these boards. Now once again, when laying these out, try to find the crown on your board and put that up. So I'm just going to do that here as I go along. Now that I have the crown in the right direction, I'm going to line up my boards here on the bottom plate. Like I said, I don't have a nail gun, so I'm going to use some 3.5-inch screws here. I may do a combination of nails and screws. We'll see how motivated I am for that. I'm just going to make sure this is flush here with the edge and the top. Now down here on the California corner, you want the longer board to be on the ground here and the stud to be up as it would any other stud. And just going to line that up on the edge, making sure that it's flush. Get this right here locked down, and we can put a nailer screw down there as well. Now that I have the bottom plate done, the top is basically just a repeat. So I'm going to place this where it needs to be. And then once again, using a combination of nails and screws, I'm going to assemble this. It was far too hot out here earlier, so I took a little break. Now that I have the actual wall done, I'm going to install some blocking. If your wall is greater than 8 foot tall, you're supposed to put fire blocking in. But for my case, I'm not only doing the fire blocking, but I'm also adding these to have an edge for my OSB to attach to. So what I'm going to do is measure from the bottom 4 foot up and draw a line across here, and then move up to the 8 foot mark and draw a line across. And then I'm going to stagger offset my blocking in here so that I have something for the edge of my OSB to attach to. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Later on, I'm going to add drip edge and trim to the bottom of this. So I believe that my OSB is going to go just to the edge of the wall here. So let's go ahead and mark the 4 foot right here. I'm going to move over a couple and do that again. And then I will use my straight edge to connect the dots, basically. You could certainly use a chalk line instead of doing it this way. I just didn't feel like bringing the chalk out today. Whenever cutting blocking, it's important to make sure that it's not too big, or else it will bow out the walls, and you definitely don't want that. So just making sure these are not being stressed anyway. We'll go ahead and cut this. We've got 5 3/4 inch. For the first block, let's go ahead and start it down below the line. So move that right there. And then I'm just going to use some screws from the outside to get that attached. Okay, I have that first block in, looking very nice. Let's move on to the next one here. This one is 14 1/4. Now this one is going to go above the line. And the main reason for that is so that you can access this side to put your fastener in there. Otherwise, you would be kind of lost as to having to do a toenail every time. And that gets ugly pretty quick whenever I try it, at least. So now this is going to mean that one side of the OSB will have something to attach to, while this one doesn't, and then it'll offset back and forth. But it's going to be plenty strong enough to have just that one side there. So, all right, very good. Now down here where the California corner is, I'm going to have to notch out my board to go around that 2x4. And so what I want to do is just find out, let's see, right here is going to be 14 inch, and then I will go over 3.5 and down 1.5 right there to go around this 2x4. Okay, I want to go over 3.5 on this board, and then I want to go up 1.5. Now here on my speed square, it's got a mark for the 1.5, so I can just take that and travel along here, and it will put my mark in there for me. And so essentially, that's where I want to cut out my notch. I'm going a little past so that I will be able to cut out the extra material, and this piece will drop out. Now I can just flip that over and finish out the cut here. Let's see how we did here. Yep, nice. All right. Whenever I put a wall down, I like to use a contractor's adhesive, or liquid nails in this case. And I feel like it helps the wall stick down to my plywood, but also helps to make a bug barrier. So I just come along here on the edge and leave a bead of this. All right. Now it's time to set up the wall. And there we have it, a basic wall built and installed. So you can see that I have my staggered blocking there at the 4 foot mark, which will act for both the sheathing on the outside and for attaching the sheetrock on the inside whenever the time comes. All right, so it's at 4 foot there on the center line. and then the 8-foot mark is the center line up there as well. My walls are right at 10 foot high, so I'll be able to put some shelving up top and also some studio lights when that time comes as well. Very nice. So whenever the next wall is put in over here, it will, well, let me just show you real quick. Let's get a 2x4 so you can see how that California corner is going to look. When the next wall goes up here like this, you can see there is plenty of space right here for the sheetrock to attach to. I hope you found this basic wall build and install very helpful, or at least entertaining. The next video in this series is going to be installing a wall with a window, so definitely subscribe and ring that notification bell so you will know when that video comes out. I'm Seth with the SethCraft Workshop, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Hey.
This one's big enough. Is this one big enough for you? See if this one's big enough for you. I remember when we pushed that. This one's big enough for you. Give him it. Stand it like me. See? Do you remember? Now try this one. Do you remember when we pushed neck? And I'll try this one. We tried that one. This is so tiny. Okay. Do you remember when we pushed neck? Yeah. Is that good enough for you? Yeah. How about try this one? Okay, try this one. Actually, I'll try it. This is too small for me. Yeah, it's definitely too small. You try it. Oh. So which one of these doors is perfect? This one. Yeah, this one. Ah! And this one.